Hey Canucks fans, let's talk about the Canucks RFAs, and in particular, the two local boys, Troy Stecher and Jake Virtanen. I'm Clay Imoo, I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter, I'm at Clayton Imoo on Instagram, I'm the founder of the GLCPC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club. It's my Canucks take, all in one take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Tuesday, June the 30th. This is where you get Canucks insight that's positive and timely. Before I get to today's topic, I want to talk about my upcoming Zoom chats. I teased out yesterday on Twitter that my next three guests all have the first letter of D, either in the first name, one of them was first name, one of them was the last name, and one of them was the nickname. Well, the nickname one is the one I'm still working on securing, so I'm not going to say that one yet. But most of you figured out that Rick Dollywall, because I've talked about him before, was one of them. That was supposed to be this week. That'll be pushed to next week. But tomorrow I am interviewing my first cousin and professional hockey coach and former pro player, Dusty Imoo. So there's the first name, starting with the letter D. So it's my cousin Dusty. Looking forward to chatting with him. You may remember I chatted with him a year ago before Zoom, just a YouTube interview before he went off to coach in the KHL. So I'm going to talk to him about his experiences, some other things about goaltending, nuances in the NHL. And for the first time, I'm going to invite you to submit questions as well. And I'm going to ask him 2 or 3 questions from you, either on Twitter or on YouTube. So send in a question that you want me to ask Dusty, and I will do that as part of my Zoom interview with him late tomorrow morning. So look forward to that. I'll post that early tomorrow afternoon. Okay. Let's talk about the Canucks RFAs. Now, we know that there's about 9 or 10 guys that Jim Benning's going to have to negotiate with this offseason, whenever that offseason is. And we know that the big UFAs, the big three of Markstrom, Toffoli, and Tanev. Also a UFA is Josh Levo, and also a UFA is Oscar Fantenberg. But today I want to talk about the RFAs. And we know that those guys include Jake Virtanen, Troy Stecher, Tyler Mott, Zach McEwen, and Adam Gaudette. I can really knock off the last 3 really quick. Tyler Mott will probably do another 1 or 2 year, maybe a slight raise over his $925,000 salary, because he provides a good cost certainty, a really, really good hustle player and a solid player, a good penalty killer in our bottom 6. So to me, that's a no-brainer. You got to sign Tyler Mott, and he's not going to demand a lot or command a lot just yet. Adam Gaudette, he's a 10.2C guy. That means he's used 3 years of eligibility, but has not accrued 3 full seasons. So that means he has no arbitration rights. He doesn't really have a lot of negotiating power at all. So the Canucks, that should be a no-brainer as well. And I can get into that in a different vlog. But Adam Gaudette should not be a worry as well, whether they sign him to a 1, 2, 3 year deal going forward. And then I think the third one of those guys is Zach McEwen, coming off an entry-level deal. He does not have a lot of leverage either. So that should be a no-brainer to me for the Canucks. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about Mott, Gaudette, or McEwen today. We can do that going forward. I do want to talk about the 2 local guys, Richmond's Troy Stecher and Abbotsford's Jake Virtanen. Now, not only are they fan favorites because the Canucks fans, they love them because of their play, they love them because they're local. They've seen both guys kind of grow up with the franchise. But they're both in tough situations going forward. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be re-signed by the Canucks. We don't know what the Canucks' priority is, but let's look at them really quickly. Troy Stecher, we know a right-handed D. Last season, he actually was placed in the top 4 minutes, sometimes top pairing minutes, with injuries to Chris Tanev and others. And the Canucks were a lot weaker, thinner on D, remember, 2 years ago, or last year, when they had guys like Pouliot and Goodbranson and Delzato in the lineup. So Stecher did play a lot of top 4, sometimes even top pairing minutes. But then this year, he dropped down to a bottom pairing role again, because you had Chris Tanev and Tyler Myers playing ahead of him. Myers still here for 5 more years. Tanev a pending UFA, so we'll see a lot of talk that he might not be able to be re-signed because of limited money, and you still want to go after Markstrom and Toffoli as your priorities. So to me, that puts Troy Stecher in a pretty good spot, because I don't know if the Canucks can afford to lose 2 of their top 3 right side D-men in one summer, in Chris Tanev and Troy Stecher. Again, Tyler Myers will be the mainstay. So what does that mean when it comes to his new contract? Well, Troy Stecher does have arbitration rights, and some people are trying to compare him to the Ben Hutton situation from last season, but we'll remember it was a little bit different because Hutton was coming off a season where he played top 4 minutes because of injury, and same year as they're talking about Stecher had a good year, because Stecher and Hutton got elevated to top 4 minutes last year, and that was the year that Hutton was starting to negotiate, was up for arbitration. And then I think the Canucks were simply worried that because the arbitrator would see the big minutes and the big ice time and the all situation play for Hutton, that he was going to award Hutton a really big contract. So the Canucks decided not to qualify Ben Hutton, and now that's why Ben Hutton signed with the LA Kings. Different scenario for Stecher in that he didn't play top 4 minutes this season, like I said, because of Tyler Myers, that acquisition, and because Chris Tanev was healthy for the entire season. So what's Troy Stecher going to get? Are they going to go to arbitration? Will the Canucks walk away? Will they not qualify him? I do see the Canucks qualifying Stecher. I do see the Canucks maybe not so worried about an arbitration case, though you always kind of worry about the relationship of the player with the team once they go through an arbitration. Hopefully it's not nasty. But really the Canucks, I don't think Stecher has a lot of negotiating power. He doesn't have a lot of leverage. He has some, for sure, because he is steady, he's dedicated, he's consistent, all those things. But the minutes and the stats simply don't paint a massive picture for him. So what does that mean in terms of contract? Maybe the Canucks could negotiate a contract instead of doing the 1 year qualifying offer. Maybe they can negotiate a bigger or more long-term contract with Troy Stecher. But it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I would love to see him stay. I'd love to be I think he can be a solid second pairing guy behind Tyler Myers if the Canucks don't go out and get a big name in free agency, which I don't think they can afford to do. So that's Troy Stecher. I'd love to see him stay with the Canucks. With Jake Virtanen, very interesting because here's a guy who won't crack the top 6, especially if the Canucks do resign Toffoli. That's going to make a big difference, right? It'll change the Canucks' mindset in their negotiating. If the Canucks cannot sign Tyler Toffoli, then are you looking at finding another top 6 winger, or do you give that opportunity to Virtanen? Now, Virtanen was on the cusp of 20 goals this season before he got cut short. He's been getting better defensively, getting power play time on the second unit. So, we've heard numbers anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 million. I know Thomas Drance did a good story this morning on The Athletic where he talks about Jake Virtanen's comparables are in the $3 million range. In his last season, this season right now, his last season of this contract, he had a really good season, so that could bump him over 3. But then others around the league, Thomas Drance was saying, don't see Virtanen as a $3 million player. And I've always said, you sometimes overvalue your own guys, right? That's the whole nature of negotiations and of valuation. So for Virtanen, do you see the Canucks keeping him as well? I do. I think he can be a solid bottom 6, but then that's $3 million for a bottom 6 guy. So maybe you go 1 or 2 years only, and try and do another show-me deal as he's been getting for the past couple contracts, or do you try and extend him long-term? I don't think the Canucks are going to do that. I think they're going to go for a 1 or 2 year contract, and then you can keep the cost down a little bit because you're not buying years of his unrestricted free agency. But I'd love to see Virtanen continue to be a part of this team. He can certainly be a difference maker, and he can certainly be a big part of this team. Bottom 6, second power play unit, but the question is at what cost? And when you look at that bottom 6 already, it's pretty expensive with guys like Beagle, Sutter, Eriksson, Roussel. I know not all of them play all the time. That's why guys like Tyler Mott, Zach McEwen, Adam Gaudette, we need them on cheap contracts to help balance that bottom 6 out. So that's really what I want to leave with you today, Canucks fans, is what do you think is going to happen with our 2 local guys? I'd say our 2 most prominent RFAs, Troy Stecher on the blue line and Jake Virtanen up front. What type of money would you give them? And do you think ultimately they'll be signed with us? So I guess a couple questions of the day today is, of those 2 guys, do you see both of them getting re-signed, only one of them, or none of them? Of course, there's one of them. Tell me which guy you think will get signed. And more importantly, what sort of money and term are you willing to offer these guys? For Virtanen, we use a ballpark of $3 million. Stecher could be anywhere between, I don't even know. Is he a $3 million guy? Is he a $4 million guy? Is he a $2.5 million guy? It's tough to say because they didn't want to give Ben Hutton a raise over his $5.5 million over 2 years, so that's 2.75. So where does Stecher fall in compared to Hutton? Is he $2.5 to $3 million guy? So Canucks fans, I'd love to know. Answer those questions. Who do you expect to be back with those 2 guys, and on what term? And at what, the money and term of their contracts. I would love to know what you think. Leave a comment below. I will read, react, or reply as always. And again, if you have any questions from my cousin Dusty, whether about his coaching the KHL, playing for Team Japan in the Olympics, backing up his son in a very famous, in a famous game a few seasons ago, or his goaltending coach experience working in Winnipeg and then most recently LA. So leave a question for Dusty as well, and I'll make sure that that gets to him if it's a good one, of course. So there we go. Stecher, Virtanen, and Dusty Imoo. Talk about any of those guys down below. And like as always, I will read, react, and reply as best as I can. Subscribe if you like to. Like this video if you like to. Enjoy the day. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. God bless, and go Canucks go.